Meteorologist Akradella here with you on the Sunday afternoon for HurricaneTrack.com. We're tracking the latest on Harvey, which is causing a catastrophic flooding across southeast Texas. But we also have a new storm, potential tropical cyclone number 10, and that's off the Carolina coast. Could bring some impacts to portions of the South Carolina and North Carolina and Outer Banks coastlines as we go into the next 2 to 3 days. Let's get straight to Harvey because that is the big story. We continue to still have these heavy rain bands moving into southeastern Texas. No break for the Houston area, and this is going to be one of the most intense, most costly floods I think we've ever seen because of the population center that it's hitting. Houston is a top 10 city in the United States, and right now it's being decimated by flooding. But now the effects are extending into Louisiana. No significant flooding in Louisiana yet, but that might change as we go over the next few days. Again, we're still just getting started. We're expecting more of this heavy rainfall to impact these same locations, not only tonight as we go into Monday, Tuesday, maybe all the way through much of the upcoming week as we go throughout the week. This is a tweet from the National Weather Service. I just wanted to point this out because it goes to show you what we're dealing with. They say this event is unprecedented and all impacts are unknown and beyond anything experienced. Follow orders from officials to ensure safety. When they say all impacts are unknown, we've been forecasting the rainfall threat. And we've been talking about some astronomical numbers, but as far as impacts, when this stuff happens, we don't know everything that can happen in between as far as what rivers are going to flood, where the water is going to go. And that's the unknown, and that's why you always have to constantly monitor this situation as it transpires. Here's a look at Houston Transtar's website, and it goes to show you the amount of flooding that's ongoing, and it's loading right now, but there's going to be little blue dots, and this is just the major city, let's say, interstates. These are the loops, but almost every single interstate system has some type of water on it, even some of the back roads, and like I said, this is only just the big roadways. This isn't talking about all the small roadways that are experiencing flooding, and that's why this is such a huge deal for the city of Houston right now, and it's still have another, say, 2 feet of rain possible. Here's the latest video coming from Mark. He's in Houston. He's covering the flood. You've probably seen the feed on the Weather Channel. Or you can also view the feed at any time at HurricaneTrack.com. He's along Bray's Bayou, and yesterday when he put this pod out there, the water was way off in the distance, and now it's basically about to overtake the pod very shortly, and it's probably going to do that because the rain keeps falling across portions of southeastern Texas and the Houston metropolitan area. This is the forecast from now and 7 days from now. So this is not something that, this is not, oh, what's falling and taking that into account. There's another 26.1 on this board, and that means another 2 feet of rain is possible in portions of southeast Texas, including the Houston metropolitan area. And you can see how this line that extends into Louisiana, that's why Louisiana is under the gun too. There's a threat across portions of Louisiana to see as much as 10 to 15, maybe even higher than that, inches of rain. And so the threat is only going to get worse and sort of expand. And that's why right now you're just hearing about Houston and you're hearing about where the landfall of Harvey made, where all the destruction was. Now, as the storm continues to slowly meander about, the impacts are going to get wider. And that's why this storm is just going to get worse for a good portion. I want to draw your attention to look off the Carolina coast. That is going to be what's most likely Irma, and there could be some heavy rainfall along just the immediate coastline. This looks like an immediate coastline thing, and this is not going to be a big storm. This is not going to ramp up any, say into a hurricane very fast. Probably just going to be a tropical storm, but there could be some rain bands that bring some heavy rainfall to the portions of the Carolina coast as we go throughout the next 2 to 3 days. This is going to be kind of in and out. It's going to develop right offshore and then head on out to sea, just scraping the Carolina coast. This is the HRR, high-resolution computer model that shows basically the radar output for the next 18 hours, and I wanted to draw your attention to a few things here. I'm going to put this in motion, and you can see how that band over Houston doesn't really move, but as we go into the overnight hours tonight, notice how then there's another heavy band. Remember, tropical systems like the nighttime hours. They like to develop their convection in the nighttime hours. So once we get into the nighttime hours tonight, there's another one of these heavy bands, but it's positioned a little bit farther eastward. You can see how it's closer, it's more so closer to southwest Louisiana and the Beaumont area of southeast Texas. Rather, maybe Houston gets a break. That's about the only good news we can get out of this, is maybe Houston will get a semi-break where that band isn't right over. The only problem is it's bringing more locations, more impacts for other residents, that unfortunately will be brought into the mess of this entire flood that's possible really all along the Gulf, say the Gulf Coast from Texas to Louisiana. And as we go throughout the day on Monday, that band is going to slowly migrate into Louisiana even farther, and that's when we're talking about Louisiana is going to start to see those serious impacts from the flooding as well. Here's the latest information from the National Hurricane Center, the latest track, and probably the biggest story now from a track perspective from the Hurricane Center is it does indeed look like it's going to get offshore as we go into the overnight hours tonight and Monday, and then turn north and be somewhere around Galveston once we get into Wednesday. Remember, the worst of the weather is on the northeast side right there of the storm because it's so weak now. All that worst weather is going to be where that southerly wind's pumping in that moisture. If it's over Houston, if the center's over Houston, maybe the rain won't be as bad. Still, the impacts are, the potential is going to be there, but maybe we can bring the heaviest rain more so to the east of the circulation. That is then, we're wishing some very heavy rainfall on somebody else, which we shouldn't do, but at this point, Houston can't take any more rain, but again, the forecast does call for a lot more rain. Let's transition away from Harvey, and now we're looking at potential tropical cyclone number 10. The National Hurricane Center issued its first advisory on this storm at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock Central Time. It's still fairly broad, but you can clearly see there's rotation. There's a center of circulation somewhere off the northeastern Florida coastline. Lots of convection, but you can notice that there's shear actually coming from the outflow of Harvey. And again, this is not going to blow up into anything major. It's going to quickly head on out to sea, but this is the first track. It is expected to become Irma by either later tonight or first thing on your Monday morning. And we do have tropical storm watches from the central South Carolina coastline up through the Outer Banks, and it is forecast to become a 40 miles per hour tropical storm and maybe approaching the southern North Carolina coast as we go during the day on Tuesday. And then by Tuesday, say early morning, Tuesday evening, it's already off the Carolina coast, heading out to sea. And by Wednesday, it's out of our hair. At this point, it's going to be a rainmaker and some swells, but for the most part, we're not going to be talking about any major wind damage from the storm, and it's not expected to strengthen that much either. So that's something we'll just be watching closely. And again, it'll be mostly a coastal issue with that storm. But Mark, he's still in Texas. He's going to be in there for the long haul. He's in the Houston metropolitan area covering the extensive flooding. And again, if any of you residents, if anybody's watching that lives in these areas, take heed of your local officials' advice. That's the best we can do, and continuously monitor the weather as we go throughout the next few days because it's a fluid situation. It changes rapidly, and it's more of a now-casting thing where we need to figure out, okay, what's the radar look like now? Who's going to get hit the hardest over the next 12 hours? That's where we're at with the storm. It's not so much, oh, what's going to happen Tuesday or Wednesday. It's more about what's going to happen in the next, say, 0 to 12 to 24 hours. That's how we can tell those things by looking at radar. I'm meteorologist Zach for HurricaneTrack.com. Have a great rest of your Sunday.